friends. This is the Be Real Babe podcast, a place where your average babes come together to talk about life stresses, messes, and successes. A place where being yourself is the ultimate goal, where your opinion, your story, and your individual experience matters. Join me, your host B, and my guests for real and raw talks every week, laying it all out there so we can all help each other learn more, grow deeper, and evolve collectively. Now keep in mind, as a disclaimer, no one here is an expert and no one is giving any advice. This is strictly our opinions, thoughts, feelings, and for entertainment purposes only. Now with that being said, it's time. So grab your drink, grab your joint, and let's jump right in. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Be Real Babe podcast. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by the show today. I hope that you have a good time. And if you're a returning listener, watcher, supporter, thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart for coming back time and time again. For those that don't know me, my name is Brandy. I am the host of the show, and today you guys were on episode 199, Being Real About BII Recovery with Bella. Oh my goodness, you guys. For one, episode 199. For two, BII. For three, Bella. Couldn't ask for a better episode, you guys. I'm so excited for you guys to catch up with her, to catch up with me. You guys know that this topic is super important to me when it comes to informed consent. This is one area that is just non-existent in women knowing about. However, there's a lot of momentum going on in this space, and I'm so excited to talk about it and for you guys to catch up on the beautiful Bella. But before we get to that, I just want to remind you, if you are watching on YouTube or Rumble, to like, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. Comment if you can. And if you are listening to the audio on Apple or Spotify, you can turn on notifications and leave a review there as well if you're feeling like you want to send some love your girl's way. And just to remind you, if you want to find me on social media, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and TikTok at the Be Real Babe or the Be Real Babe podcast. If there's an episode you guys want to be a part of, you want me to report on, talk about, make sure to shoot me a message on any one of those social media formats, and I will be happy to take the request. If you want to be on an interview yourself, make sure you let me know. By the time this airs, it'll be almost the middle of November, and y'all, we're halfway through season 8. I can't even believe it. But we know I'm not going to stop at 10. I don't think so anyways. But anyways, guys, amazing episode up ahead. Just want to remind you and thank you guys again. Thank you for being amazing, for supporting me always. It means the world to me that you guys listen to one episode, let alone multiple. So just want to remind you again, I would not be here without you guys. So I super appreciate it. And make sure to let me know if you're liking it. If you want to see something else, I am open to constructive and nice criticism. If you're an asshole, I'm just going to block you. Just kidding. Please don't be an asshole. But anyways, amazing episode. Let's get to it. All right, babes, it's time to get on to the show. And with me today, I have a very special human joining me for her first time in the studio. I'd like to welcome Bella back to the show. Hey, babe, how's it going?
Hey babe, how's it going?
I'm so
Thank you for having me.
excited we finally get to see you in real life. I love that you joined
Yes,
us. Thank you for being one of our first guests on the show. But like, girl, I'm more excited now to have you and I can see you in real life.
yes, me too. Full screen.
Yeah, there's just something different. Like the audio was so fun and I'm so proud of ourselves for like taking our time. But now it's like, I want to see the people I'm connecting to. So thank you for rejoining
Yes.
me in this season. For you guys that don't know, Bella was on season 2, episode 48. You were my first BII guest that I talked to. I was so nervous. So thank you for holding my hand through that. And then it was only 10 episodes that you came back on for episode 58, talking about having a small business through COVID. I thought the time was so much more between we had talked, but it was only 10 episodes.
No, it was not a long time, but I was okay with it.
I know, right? We're like, okay, we talked about this. Now, hey, we're going to talk about like the controversy. And you're like, I'm in. I'm like, yes, bitch, yes,
Yeah,
let's go.
yes, let's do it
Let's
again.
do it again. So before we jump in and just catch up with where you are with your BII and your explant recovery, let's just pretend you've never been on the show before. And if you can give our community just a little bit about who the amazing Bella is.
Yes, so I'm a national athlete and also a business owner, small business owner. I own 3 now, which I know we're going to touch base on a little bit later. Yes. But I've always been like very holistic, very involved in health and wellness, very involved in fitness, and just in general, a very healthy person and an athlete. And in 2019, I decided that I wanted to go ahead with breast augmentation surgery. Shortly after that surgery, I started developing symptoms, and over the course of 5 months, ended up developing what we now know as breast implant illness. At the time, that was not a term that was coined, a term that was well known. And I ended up being one of the first kind of voices going on national news to talk about my journey. That included me almost passing away during August of 2019. And then actually, we just hit 5 years ago, almost to the day. So on September 4th, 2019, I had my emergency explant and started to share my story to help other women that were also tackling that journey.
Oh, and honestly, girl, when you started sharing, I was like, this is perfect because I wanted to talk about it, but obviously not going through it and being flat chested. I'm like, people are not going to take this the right way. But I wanted to warn people because I had known individuals like you and watched you guys go through it lives, like the other girl that had been on your show, Danielle. I was like, I don't think
Yeah.
girlies know about this. And I just want people to know because, like you said, you hadn't, like, we'll go into it, but like you had no knowledge of this when this was happening to you. And I'm not saying that the knowledge would prevent it, but it sure would probably give you a lot more understanding in that moment of like, what the fuck is going on, to at least have something. But with your case and
Hmm.
so many other women's cases, they had no idea. And it's like for either a small amount of time because they have no time, or years it takes for people to find out. And for you, I feel like you're one of those people that you got them and your body was like, immediate no.
Yes.
Immediately no. Is that fair to say? Like, is
Yes.
it started
A
like
hundred
right away?
percent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like in a meet. Nope,
Yep.
absolutely not.
So, when it was the beginning of 2019 that you got them, how long to when you got them to when you started noticing to when you explant? It was like 5 or 6 months, wasn't it?
Yes, so I had them in for a total of 5 months. My first symptom actually developed right after surgery. Within the first 24 hours, I got a big rash on my chest. I thought it was an allergic reaction to the anesthetics and ended up finding out, obviously, later on over the course of developing 42 symptoms that were documented up until almost passing away that, that it was my implants. So.
That is so wild. And if I remember correctly, when was the moment that you found out about breast implant illness? That was when you were in the hospital, right?
It actually was Danielle who was my hair client at the time. And she reached out to me because I made a post basically just kind of advocating for myself. I'd been in the hospital for 11 days. And I just actually at the time I posted, I think it was 9, and I just couldn't figure out what was going on. The doctors were just stumped. My entire body was shutting down. And she sent me an Instagram message and she said, "Hey girl, like, have you thought about the fact that this all started with your breast implants?" And of course, later on, I found out that Danielle herself had gone through breast implant illness for a lot longer than me. And actually, after I healed, ended up donating to her being able to get her surgery as well. So it was kind of neat how the universe brought that together.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. It's so beautiful when we look at that too, right? And I think that's the importance of speaking out, and I think that's why. And I mean, it obviously saved your life. Imagine, not saying that your life wouldn't have been saved, but imagine if she didn't reach out and you really had no idea. One of the past guests as well, down in the States, she found out by watching somebody on the news in the
Mm-hmm.
hospital. And it's like,
Yep.
how is the news, and I'm sure you experience this too, is the amount of gaslighting surgeons are doing in doctors, and maybe they don't know,
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't want to sit there and say every single surgeon or doctor are assholes, obviously, but
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like people have been speaking out against this for a really long time, but I think it's just been hyper silent. So when you started
Yes.
speaking out, did you feel like you were getting silence and like that frustration of getting your word out because there's so much gaslighting, people being like, what the fuck are you talking about? No, I know so many people that have them and they're fine. And I'm like, are they?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? It's a medical device. And if we get organs, I think I said this on the last podcast episode with you, but if we have to take drugs for the rest of our lives after having organs literally matched to us perfectly in order to do, any type of, sorry, what was it? What do you call it again when you change organs out?
A transplant?
Transplant. Thank you. I keep thinking explant
I
because
know.
that's what I
That's
do.
what
But
the positive one.
transplant. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So for transplants, we have to take medication our whole lives, right? Anti-rejection meds. So here we are putting something foreign in the body. and saying that there's no way that you could have a reaction. I mean, it's ludicrous when you think about it, right?
And
So,
the amount of women that tell me that when they were in the surgeons, there was no, and this is obviously the big part of my podcast, is informed consent. Like, I honestly wish that everybody loved their boobies and no one got boobies. And that's only because majority of people do end up getting hurt. It's not because I want
yes,
misery loves company. I just want everyone to be
yes,
flat chested like me. Like, I really know. I wish mine could just naturally grow. Okay. Like, wish we could go to the
same,
gym and just do like chest and it would
same.
grow, but it doesn't. But
Yes,
you just
no, it
do,
doesn't.
we know that the lines, we just build the lines and we still can be beautiful and sexy, right? So changing the narrative of like whatever boobs you have is what you have, because
Yes,
so many women tell me that they had no idea. And so many women are living with implants right now that can't afford to explant them. And I know that's something that you're very
yes,
familiar with because you know a lot of women that
yes.
have had to do GoFundMe's and stuff. Is that something that you feel that if women are going to implant and they're going to go through it, do their research and go through it, I'm always the one to say, please have some money to explant if you were ever like
Yes,
a Bella. That's in my mind. You're the first person I think of when anybody tells me
yes,
that. I'm like, just please make sure you have enough to explant. Is that a fair thing to warn people to say?
definitely. The other really awesome thing is now there is education about this. It is out there. Whereas 5 years ago, when I was dealing with this, I really had nothing to go off of other than, just digging deep into the web. As you brought up earlier, there was a lot of, people that were making judgment calls. I lost some friends. People went even as far as when I was going on CTV News to email the station to get the legal team to pull my story, because they didn't believe what I was saying. And the CTV legal team actually had to contact the hospital, go through all of my medical records, confirm everything, and then ran the episode actually a couple days later than it was supposed to be because of that. Yeah.
Wow, I did not know that. That's so, and then you're probably like, haha, motherfucker. Like, yeah, here's my story. And
Mic
like,
drop.
no
Yeah.
shit. And like, I understand, okay, I kind of understand you want to fact check and make sure that the people that you're having on that big of a news station, like at that
Yes.
level, obviously I get that. But like, how ridiculous is it? Because it's like, you're not telling that industry or those people not to get them. You've always just
No.
been in the mind of people should be informed, like myself. I don't hate this
Yes.
stuff. I hate that women feel like
Yes.
they have to and that they're not, challenged or pushed back a little bit more onto why they need it. Is this gonna, or is your body like, could there, it'd be cool if there was like tests to tell if your body could do those things. Like,
Mhm.
I couldn't even have earrings as a child. So to me, the thought of
Mhm.
breast implants, it's always kind of been there. And then I met you girlies and fell down that rabbit hole.
Yes.
I found the
Yeah.
BII Facebook group. I think we had talked about that too. The
Yes.
Nicole one, right? I'm sure
Yeah.
that is,
Lifesaver.
yeah, and so
Mhm.
many women have said that. And again, referring back to, I think it's so important to speak out because people aren't paying for these kind of studies. Surgeons
Mhm.
aren't going to tell you that this could happen. Like, were you advised at all, or was like, these will last forever? And you're like, cool.
Yeah, so my surgeon was actually very knowledgeable.
Good.
He didn't let me know anything about these type of illnesses or any type of reactions because, like I said at the time, it really wasn't well known.
Yeah.
But he did let me know that because I'd had allergies in the past to metal, that
Mm-hmm.
could be something that could be a risk factor. That was really the only thing he said if I noticed anything to let him know. My surgeon obviously was above board. He's not the norm for what you see. He found out like that I was sick in the hospital. He'd gone to med school with a hospitalist that was dealing with me, and he actually out of his pocket covered my explant and actually saved my life. So very different story, an incredible surgeon. Um, Listened to what I had to say right away, took it to heart, and actually has done a number of explants with women that I know and have referred to him. However, like I said, there are only a couple surgeons in all of Canada that I've even heard of that are like that. So I was lucky.
Yeah, and that's
Hmm.
the thing too, like, and let's go back to that point because, like you said, in 2019, that wasn't talked about like it is now. And like, even though there is
No.
shadow banning and there is censoring, there are so many women that are doing this at an exponential rate. And one thing
Yes.
too that I think is really important to note too is that some people don't actually get better either when they take their implants out. And I think that's super important. That one woman I followed,
Hmm.
she had to get like more of her tissue taken out. So it was more like her boobs were almost like indented and she was just
Yes.
beside herself because she had zero. It was like, these are going to last forever, like maybe 20 years, maybe you should get them replaced. And it's like,
Yeah.
where's the accountability to saying like, that's amazing you had that kind of surgeon? It's sad that
Hmm.
that is rare. I wish that that was
Yes.
the normal. Like, you're doing this and you should listen to your patients, because would you say most girlies didn't get listened to by their doctors and their surgeons?
Oh, 100%. And I did have to face that in the hospital when I did go in. Like I said, I went in 9 times in 9 weeks. And prior to that, I'd only been hospitalized once in, I think it was about 10 years for anything that was serious. So the fact that they weren't listening to me, that they were shutting me down, even the hospitalist that dealt with me didn't actually believe what I was saying. I had to advocate for myself after Danielle reached out to me, and even then had to privately reach out to my surgeon to see what we could do. If I didn't have, that amount of willpower,
Mm-hmm.
that fire that's just naturally built in me, um, I don't know if I could have done that. And a lot of women are just so exhausted after years of chronic illnesses and people not listening to them that they do give up. There are actually women, a lot of documented cases where women have unfortunately passed away
Yeah.
um, from parts of breast implant illness. And I think that's the part that we really need to focus on, are those voices that weren't listened to.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And that's why I want to advocate all the time and speak out about it, even if it's not like, some people get upset. I'll notice if I share something like that, I'll get sometimes some unfollows, and I'm just like, and that's okay as
Hmm.
long as we've planted the
Hmm.
seed, right? It's because
Yes.
there's nothing worse than knowing, and like maybe we'll go over a little bit what your symptoms were, but there is such a vast amount. You said 42 were showing for yourself alone, and that's not uncommon.
42.
That's not
Yep.
uncommon.
42.
And so, like,
Yep. It was crazy.
and I don't think women know. So, one thing I think you'll agree with me is that a lot of women, especially moms, will be like, oh, I'm tired. I'm a mom. Like, they'll almost excuse their lifestyle, their life, or why they're feeling like shit, and not even attribute
Oh,
to
yeah.
these things, right? So, what were some like low, because obviously don't sit here and list all 42. I mean, you can, but what were some like low end ones that you noticed that you were like kind of shocked that were symptoms to, versus like, obviously going to the hospital and almost dying, but like, ones that were severe that were actually like stopping you from living your life?
Yeah, so I actually developed Bell's palsy,
Jesus
which
Christ.
is which is a complete stroke-like symptoms on one side of your face. So for me, it was the left side of my face. I've got videos of that where I was documenting this. I had anaphylaxis type reactions where my tongue had swollen up into the side of my teeth and split open along the sides, body rashes, extreme vertigo and migraines, extreme weakness, all things that could be attributed to any type of autoimmune, which is generally what women with breast implant illness are misdiagnosed with.
Mhm.
Lots of people misdiagnosed with lupus,
Yes.
some with Lyme's disease, some people even with MS, and finding out later that that was not at all what they had. So lots of different things like that. I ended up with pericarditis, pneumonia, and then almost death. So,
Jesus. And too, there's some
hmm
women that don't even know like things like anxiety and depression, because your body
yeah,
is fighting for the most part. Like, again, it could be the safest product in my mind. I'm always like, you said to your point, your body has something foreign in it. So whether that's
yes,
through a transplant, which is like to save your life, or if it's like explant to, whatever reasons you do it for, there's still a foreign entity within your body that needs to be absorbed. And I think in
yes,
my mind, because I've always had like sensitive skin, the thought of like something plastic warmed up inside my body, once I started
hmm
diving into it, I was like, yeah, I mean, you can say that some women never show any signs, and that's amazing. But to say that it doesn't do anything and that it's not dangerous, and like, does it
hmm
not come with a black box warning on them?
yes, yes,
Yes.
exactly.
So like I feel like those are kind of important things. I know that there's women in the States that are fighting for that to be on, as you're signing in. Um is that something, do you think, that we'll ever see in Canada? Do you hear of any talks of any of that kind of stuff, or like we're so behind? I feel like the
Yeah.
eight ball.
So what's actually crazy about that is they were put in place. Black box warnings were put on all breast implant models in 2019. The August that I actually was getting sick is when the FDA hearings went through. That was approved, and they were forced to put those on all of the silicone products that were released for that. However, a lot of the doctors do, like, because you do have to sign for it that you're aware of it, but they'll put it on the last page of your contract, and they generally won't even really touch base on it, which is the sad part. The fact that the FDA has announced and agreed 5 years ago that this needs to be something that doctors immediately go over. And this is the heaviest weight that they can give to a health related product as far as a warning. Cigarettes have black box warnings as well.
Mm-hmm.
Rat poisoning, all
Mm-hmm.
of that stuff, right?
Yes.
And then here we are, completely unaware that that is something that we need to be talking about with the doctor at the consult,
Yes.
at the pre-surgery consult, at everything. It shouldn't be something that's just hidden in the back pages of the
No,
contract. So,
no. And it's only not because of marketing. You know what I mean? That's it.
hmm
That's it. Because it could hurt
yeah,
your business. That's the only fucking reason it's not out
yep,
there, right? And that doesn't make sense. And I
yeah,
get the same thing. And I'm hoping one day the conversation about like Botox illness and Dysport illness and all that it comes to the same place. But that's the same thing. How many women are going to get
hmm
Botox have zero idea there's a black box warning on it because you also
hmm
have unqualified people with breast implants. I feel like you need a surgeon. So it's a little bit different. I
yes,
don't feel like you don't have as many like backyard boob jobs. Thank God. But because like we don't want to, I'm sure there is. Like I know there's a part of the world
uh,
that does like the backyard BBLs. I know there's a thing.
yeah,
But all of those things, I feel like whatever you want to do for yourself, you should, but you should have that informed consent so that if you are a sensitive body, or maybe you do have autoimmune disease that you didn't know that you had, and all of a sudden now you're
yes,
putting something forward in your body, and your body's like, it triggers, I would say for a lot of people, probably triggers that underlying genetic
yes,
thing that we have, right? And then women don't know, and then we attribute it to being like, oh, it's my period, I'm in the luteal phase, or I'm, a mom, or I'm a business owner, or I'm working out at the gym. Like how many women probably feel like the pain in their chest, maybe that's from working out and you just feel like your boobs are a little bit too tight, but it's like, no, maybe there's something. And I'm not trying to fearmonger people by any means. It could be nothing and you could be working out your chest. But I think
hmm
if stuff continually happens, we got to stop ignoring it. And if women are
yes,
equipped with, hey, this could be a side effect, start documenting it, because
yes, exactly.
not everyone is like like I yours was like strong and hard, but like some women are like
Yeah.
drawn out where they start getting symptoms
Mm,
slowly and they don't notice over time that their lives are being like completely drained from them. Do you notice
yes,
that in some people too? Like it varies. It's like it could be like within a day to like some people are explanting after like 10 years and being like, I did this and now like I
yes,
got off birth control and now all of a sudden my
yes.
body's fucking crazy.
Yes, yes, 100%. I would actually say the majority of women that get breast implant illness are women that slowly, over the course of 10 years or more, start showing symptoms. And just kind of like you were saying prior in the episode, they kind of attribute it to stress at the workplace, stress back at home, having children, hormonal changes, things like that. And of course, those are all good things to look at because breast implant illness is something where you have to go through process of elimination to kind of get to the point where you realize that's what you're dealing with. So I would actually argue that the majority of women that get implants do have some variation or form of breast implant illness, but it's generally something that they feel that they can deal with,
Mhm.
usually until they can't. And then it becomes something that's very, very, aggressive. And there are a lot of women that are going to be sick for the rest of their lives or have been for a long time because they cannot afford the $7,000 to $10,000. And that's just to explant. That's not, miss time off work, especially if you have dependents or, losing your job because you're sick, your quality of life. And a lot of women need reconstructive surgery as well after.
Mm.
I was lucky because I got them out at 5 months. I didn't need a lot of reconstructive anything,
Yeah.
but I do have deformities. I do have, my chest wall is no longer attached to my sternum. When I flex or do anything with my chest, my pectoral will roll up towards my collarbone and you can see it. It's painful. And a lot of people don't know about those things, or think about those things when they get them in. Just like you were saying, they don't have the money.
Mm-mm.
And that has to be a part of your budgeting process, unfortunately.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
And there are some people, and I think that's the biggest argument I'm sure you'll hear too. Well, I know a lot of people that have them and people are fine. And I'm like,
Yeah.
and while I can understand that, being someone that's really into advocacy and speaking in informed consent, every season I have one. I missed one last season. My one that I was supposed to do last season rescheduled, and then it ended up pushing into this season. But I try to bring one in every season, and I'm like, that's just not what I'm hearing. And you get into these
Yeah.
groups and stuff, and you just see the amount of women, and that's what's in my DMs is Brandy, thank you for these episodes. Thank you for telling me, but I
hmm
can't afford this. I'm a single mom of three. I can't afford to
Yes.
take the time off of work. I can't afford to like physically even just how am I going to take care of my kids, And
Yeah.
I don't think we think about those things, obviously, if we're like younger, even, we're going in and we're thinking about how this is going to make me feel. And if no one is like sounding the alarm of being like, hey, let's think like 10, 15 years down the road, you are probably going to have to get them replaced. I know women that have had theirs in for 20, 30 years and never had them replaced, right? Like,
Yes.
what
Yeah.
does that look like when you're 60 and you need to get a major surgery like that to keep going? Like, I don't think women are given the full understanding of what that means down the road.
Hmm.
I don't know, like
Yes.
even just the physical, but then I'm thinking, okay, when women have to do this every 10 to 15, 20 years, what happens when you're
Hmm.
70 or 80? Is that when you explant? Like, do you know anybody? I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, I don't know anybody that's in like a retirement home that has their implants. What would that look like at an older age? I often wonder.
Yes, I've actually seen them at an older
Okay.
age. Yes.
It's like I
Not
just
great.
don't know
Not great.
anybody. So I'm like, what does that end up?
Not great.
Right? And I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I think these are things that you should think of in the decision
Yes.
process because you are going to have to, you can't just get them when you're 20 and stick them in for until you're 80. I don't think.
Yes. No. No. And you really should not. And that's the thing too, is like, breast implant illness in general is is just one of the many things that you can develop from breast implants that can be negative or, for your health. So a lot of women will get other things like physical things that happen to the implant, where it will bleed into their system, go into their lymph nodes, give them heavy metal toxicity poisoning, which is one of the things I actually had to deal with afterwards. Then they're doing detoxes. And unfortunately, if you've had it in your body for 15 years or longer, the amount of damage that's been done sometimes can be irreversible or is only partially reversible.
Yes.
So,
And that's super
yeah,
important too, right? And again, I'm like, and everyone thinks sometimes I'm a hater, and I'm like, I'm not a hater. I just see so many women, and
no,
especially my age. And I have always said, like, if I had the money, I would have done it, like for sure. I'm always
hmm,
scared. I'm scared of surgeries and needles. So I feel like I love that about myself because it is very much for being like, well, to do that, you'd have to have a needle. I'm like, can I just stuff my bra? Like, I don't, I
can we
feel, can
not?
we
Yeah,
just not? Can I just magic? So that's always held me back. But I would have been the same person. I have been fighting the same comments. Like when I was 12, people were like, why are you wearing a bra? You don't need one. Like I grew up,
yeah,
I've had an explant therapist on the show, Dr. Amanda Brown, on here as well. And she said that's just the nature of society is that we're obsessed
yeah,
with breasts and bigger breasts, and that defines femininity. And I think
yes,
there's
yeah,
a big piece of it. Even if you're getting an explant, yes, of course you can get that out. And in your situation, you didn't have a choice. It's like life or fucking death. But there's a
yes,
mental aspect of that I think women also need to take in because you obviously had a reason or a story as to why you got them, and getting them out
hmm.
doesn't take that story away, and having them in might not take that story away. So when you go to explant, there's a mental piece of it that you have to also work through of then falling back in love, I think, with your body. Is that a fair thing to say that you had to work through as well?
I would say the 6 months post explant were some of the most difficult mental mountains that I had to climb or overcome in my entire life. And I have been through some shit.
You have,
I know that
girly.
you know
You
that.
have, you have, you have.
You know,
Yeah.
um, it was difficult. Your body is completely different. You've got bandages. You're also healing, physically, but mentally, having gone through the excitement of getting them, feeling absolutely incredible in your body, feeling absolutely terrible in your body, and then having to, as you said, relearn to love yourself. And really, for me personally, I can't speak for other people, but it was actually just learning how to love myself for the first time. It wasn't even learning how to re-love. It was realizing that I actually hadn't loved my breasts or my body the way that I should have from the beginning.
Mhm.
And so really embracing that, learning that small boobs are okay, making it fun, trying different strappy shirts and things on that I wouldn't have been able to wear with those. And then really just connecting with other women too and helping build up their confidence because I mean, it's a hit. It is a big hit for a woman to lose that afterwards. Yeah.
Yes, I know.
Hmm.
I remember that's what a lot of people say too. And again, even if it's life or death, there's still that doesn't cure the story that you had before. And for whatever reason, like if I'm speaking
No.
just of myself, it would have been I would have got them because, well, for one, I was like you, not in fitness as much as you, like in a competitor, but that's a whole other conversation of the pressures of what women in competing have to do. But it was like, oh, if you're ever going to compete one day, your frame would be
Mm-hmm.
perfect with a set of implants. And I'm thinking,
Mm-hmm.
that was so fucking easy for you to say, but that surgery is major. And maybe because I was a kid, I
It
had
is.
some minor surgeries as a kid, so I had an understanding of what surgeries meant and
Yes.
recovery. And I'm just like, that's not a little thing. And also, I'm not trying to be that way. Everyone's body looked different, but I have such a tall, skinny frame that my small boobs suit my body. If I would have
Yes.
been one of those girlies that would have been like, I can't wait to have boobs, and soon as I got them, but I'm like, don't look at my boobs. Why are you looking at my
Yeah.
boobs? Like, that's just me. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's everyone. I'm just saying it's me.
Yes.
So I feel very blessed that women like you have spoken out and people that have embraced that and have shared that, because then it was always like in those moments of being like, oh, you're ugly, you're not, I would think back to all the girls that I look up and like, these girls are smoking hot. Like there was a chick on,
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch the show, but that show with the dragons.
Oh,
Game of
Dragon's
Thrones.
Den.
No, Game of Thrones.
Oh, Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And I
Yes.
think one
Yes.
of the
Yes.
girls has like,
Yes.
smaller boobs, and she was just,
She
she
is.
just
Yeah.
owned her sexuality. And I was just like, yes, this
Yep.
is what we need. This is what we need to see, because
Yes.
we were the Playboy. Like, yes, it was there, but we were inundated with the Playboy, I think more than any other generation. And we were
Yes.
right at the time where it was like, we'd spent 10 years of looking at these big boobs and what like a Playboy model should look like, to right into our 20s and 30s, you in the fitness industry, where we're like,
Mm-hmm.
we're adults, we can do this now, and this is what these girls did without having
Yes.
any understanding. So honestly, girl, like I can't even tell you how much, like, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Like, you've no idea. At the same time, just know that
Thank you.
it's moments and stories like yours that have kept me off the table, have kept me, and I would have been the same thing. I would have probably immediately been like, wrong
Signed
choice.
up.
Yeah,
Yep.
wrong choice. Bad idea. Take it back. Take it back. Like, all for me, which would have been for vanity. I'm not saying anybody else is doing that. That would have been for me. It would have just been for vanity, because someone told me I wasn't feminine once with my small
Yes.
boobs, and I just carried
Yep.
that and told myself that. And then I got a man that was like, are you kidding? Look at
Oh,
you.
yeah. They don't
They
care.
don't
It's a
give a
boob.
shit. There's a boob.
They
Even if
don't
it's
care.
not there, they're just like, like women are
Yes.
so much. It's like the energy and the being, and you learn that, but you
Yes.
don't know that,
Yes.
especially if you don't have a spouse that supports that, if you don't have women
Yes.
around you. And I'm sorry, like around the fitness industry, it is very much that perfect physique, and we can't grow our boobs like we grow our
Nope.
butts, right? So
No.
that's the
No,
only
we
way to
cannot. I
do
wish we could, but we can't. Yeah.
it. Been chest pressing and pec decking my whole life, and I can't. I got nothing. It actually makes them fucking smaller.
Same.
Like,
Oh, yeah. They are. They're high up, but they're small. Yes.
oh, but
Yes.
it's I think, what you go through obviously is your purpose in life, and the stories that you tell, and we can't hide that or step away from it. So thank you for leaning in for everybody else. But going back to when you started speaking out, and you were sharing your story, you said you'd lost some friends. What was the reaction?
Yes.
Were they just not wanting to believe it? Because do you think maybe they were afraid for themselves, or did they, like, how do you not believe someone that's like clearly hurting, and there's only one? It's like you didn't change your laundry soap. Like, laundry soap wouldn't do this to you. Your diet, like,
Yes.
come on, guys. Like, obviously fingers point into certain directions, like.
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, now that I'm a little bit older and I have a little bit more wisdom after all of this happened, I realized that those really weren't my friends or people anyways, the ones that did choose to leave my life at that point. The people that did were medical professionals that were actually in the beauty industry, specifically in the plastic surgery industry. And a couple of them actually thought that I was going after my original doctor when I was speaking out. Um, or took it to heart because they actually had breast augmentation surgery as well. And like you said, they thought that it was like pointed towards them, or a little bit nervous about it and just didn't want to believe it. So after the fact, when I came out on the news, and I thanked my plastic surgeon publicly for saving my life, and I talked about how this wasn't to come down on anyone. It was just for awareness for women when you go into that consultation, for that to be something that they know could happen to them. So if it does happen, they can deal with that accordingly and with the right tools and knowledge and support, right? And that's kind of where I was coming from with it. So those were the types of people that I did lose, people that were just not wanting to believe it for their own personal reasons, which I can understand. I can see their viewpoints, but now that there's more out there, mic drop.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
It's like, I don't even have to say it. I'm not gonna say it. You know
yeah.
it. We all know it. And it's too, it's like, and I've just in advocacy in general, that's what happens. Like, I know
Yes.
when I've hit us because again, like I hit a lot of different avenues. So I know when I'm talking to someone what avenues I'm maybe not going to talk about with certain people, which is totally fair. We're all
Yes.
here on journeys. We should all be embracing those triggers to be like, hey,
Yes.
there's a place I could work on here, right? So it's like if one woman is saying, I've experienced breast implant illness with my implants, that doesn't mean that she's saying, go fuck yourself, anybody that gets them at all. It's
Exactly.
pretty much
Like, I,
saying,
dude,
like,
I just got them. Like, I'm not against them. I
no,
got them.
I love
Like,
them. And same with me. I
it's
haven't
crazy.
got them, not because I don't want them or I don't think they'll look amazing or that some woman looks so fucking good with them.
Mm-hmm.
Terrified and I've already gone through my shit. I'm going through my infertility with birth control and the medical system on my
Yes.
own side. I've had my own awakening to that where it's just like it's just not that
Yes.
important to me anymore to put myself at risk personally. And everybody
No.
gets to make that decision for themselves. And by us sharing that, it's so that women are empowered to know. And for the women that don't believe it or want to or accept it, it's all good. But I want you to have
Mm-hmm.
this seed in your mind because Bella didn't
Yes.
get that seed. Because
Yes.
you're Danielle, my Danielle. I've had I think 8 episodes on breast implant illness since the inception of the
Yes.
podcast. That's
Yeah.
insane to have this many women now being. I'm sure if we started pre 2019, we probably wouldn't have anybody. Because even when
No.
you guys came out in with us, it was in 2021, I believe, was at the end of 2021, I think was our,
Yes. Yeah.
and even
Mm-hmm.
then I was like, I'm so scared. Like, I'm so
Yes.
scared. And it was so well
Yeah.
received. And then I did Vax injury and I was like, oh, girl is really pushing it this year. But even then I was scared. Now I have no fears because I've been doing it for so long now. But yeah, it's insane how much personal deflection there can be. And it's just like, it's sad.
Yes.
I hate it for the people that are affected because it's not fair to you guys. Right. And it's like, I'm
Yeah.
glad that you guys can realize that that's a personal thing for them, that's just that, what do you call it? Cognitive dissonance, being like, if I accept that she could get hurt, then I can accept that I could get hurt, and I'm not willing to accept
Yes.
that right now. And
Yes. 100%.
I get it.
And I mean, it was sad to see. I'm not gonna lie, it was very difficult for me, especially going on CTV News. I think I was the first person that I know of that went on to speak
Totally.
publicly like that as a national athlete, especially.
Mhm.
But I found that after I did go on, that it just gave me so much more strength and just reminded me, of how many women are in the hospital or dealing with this and they think that they're alone.
Mm.
And so if I could just be that one person, that could advocate for them or remind them that they're not alone or that they could get through it, then it really was worth it. And I think you followed suit, right? Like you did the same thing. And I'm really proud of you and everything that you've accomplished and all the women that you've helped support. And you really put it on a platform for people to see and where they could hear the stories, whereas mine was just like a quick, 3 minute
Absolutely.
episode with CTV.
Yeah.
It's nice that people can dig into that and, really listen and now see
Mhm.
the women that have gone through it.
See that they're real people. I didn't make Chat GPT or whatever, like be a guest for me.
Yeah.
They're real
Yes.
women. They do have that.
Yes.
It is happening. And
Yes.
I think that's what
Yes.
upsets me is like just discrediting like survivors. It's like you don't have to
Yeah.
agree that you have it and you don't have to think that you'll ever have it. And that's okay.
Yes.
Fucking, I hope not. I fucking hope
Yes.
not. Even to my worst enemy, I hope your boobies don't kill you. I really do.
Yes.
Like,
Me too.
as much as I want to, like, I just don't want anybody to get hurt. But the fact of the matter is, what I
No.
want and what's happening ain't real. And the only way I know how to help is by sharing experiences. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist. No one's going to take my word when I come to like these studies. I can't even read them or understand them, but I can have conversations and I can
Yes.
share experiences. And to me, shared experiences sometimes are more valuable than the research because the research is only going to be bought and paid for what uh puts up that industry. They're not going to put
Yes.
stuff, people like your surgeon is very rare. Surgeons that do
Yes. Yes.
implants and explants and they're just like rotating doors kind of concern me unless you care, like truly care. I just want them to give them informed consent. That's it. Like if
A
you're,
hundred
so
percent.
then you would have known at the onset of those. And again, not
Yes.
that you were lucky for those things to come about, but at least it was intense, but at least you got rid of that. Imagine if it was like
Yes.
slow leak. Like some of these women, I don't think girlies understand. There's women that have had silicone leaked onto their rib cage and into their
Yes.
lungs that they no longer can
Yes.
get out. It's there.
Yes.
It's a part of you.
No. There are some of the women that I've connected with on that group that we were talking about.
Mm.
I think it's Breast Implant Illness and Healing by Nicole.
Yes.
It's about 92,000 women from the last time I checked. So 92,000 women sharing their stories. And at one point, I actually had to go off the page
Mm.
for about a month because I couldn't handle the injustice that was occurring and the amount of women who were sharing video footage of when their implants were coming out and just seeing them adhered to their walls, the walls of their chest. I'm seeing them, like I said, bleeding into their lymphatic system. Some of them showing silicone in their brain scans. It's pretty intense. And when you realize that for body modification, and I often talk about this for like piercings or, heavy duty body mod, it's actually illegal for you to put a silicone piece in your body in Canada like that. So I find it very interesting that that is something that is so heavily regulated, and there have been so many documented deaths from putting silicone pieces in other parts of your body. But for whatever reason, because this one is so heavily marketed and the profitability on it is so high, that they're, just basically saying, well, you know what, this one silicone model won't. And to me, that's literally insane.
No, I don't.
So,
And again,
yeah.
offer it because people want it. Like, like I'd rather it be professionals doing it than like backyard booby jobs, right? Like, and
Yes.
and we hear that with BBLs too. Like, I didn't realize that BBLs are
Yes.
different kind. You can actually get like the silicone pieces, or you can get injections. I didn't know that. I don't fucking know.
Yes.
But that is super interesting. It's like because it makes them too much money on the in and reverse on the out, because eventually most women
Yes.
are going to have to get them explanted. I know people don't want to hear that, and people will tell me no, but I'm like, why do you think you get them replaced? Like, how is that so far of a stretch to be like, you can't have these forever? And people are like, no, what are you talking about? To being like, but I'm
Yes.
sure you have to get them replaced every 10 years. Like, I don't know. I just, again,
That's the max
that's
time.
a max. And I know women that have gone 20 years and just getting them done
Yes.
now at like 30, 40. And I'm
Yes.
like, okay, so dial
Yep.
ahead again. Like I said earlier, 20 years from now, 50-year-old, 60-year-old women are not going to recover from breast implant augmentation reconstruction as easy as
No.
they do in their 20s and 30s. Because it's not even easy in your 20s and 30s, I've heard. Like the
Yes.
implant surgery themselves, so many women, and again, are afraid to talk about it. So some women don't even know they have regular boobs and they're happy, but they've gone through complications or they're in mass amount of pain from them. People don't want to
Yes.
talk about it because unfortunately our society's like, well, you got them yourselves, which I agree. You got to have some accountability that like you did do it, but that's
Yes.
not what you treat people that are going through stuff. You support them and help them get better, right? Like you don't
A hundred
shame them.
percent. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I think it's a little bit different. Like, if a doctor sits you down and tells you this might happen, of course I didn't have that conversation. And it's a little bit different because you're very aware and you're making a conscious decision to go through with it, right?
Totally.
But also, a lot of these women that are getting breast implants are getting younger and younger, and they're very vulnerable to a doctor saying, we've never had a problem with this. So even if that is something that they go over, the impressionability that we have with that age group or with just women in general, like if 10 of your friends have gotten them and they've been told it's fine, is high, right? And that's also difficult to navigate.
Yeah.
So,
And that's a good
mhm,
point, especially the younger thing. And another thing too, I find that what I've heard in these stories, I don't know if that's your experience, and maybe not with breast implants, but I've heard for like people that get rhinoplasty and stuff like that, a lot of the times they'll offer other things, or hey, just get some Botox and filler, or I'll give you some free Botox for, and it's just like, not saying that people
yeah,
shouldn't get those things. Again, like I have my own choices from my own personal beliefs. You choose what you want. I just want people to be informed because again, there's people that
yes,
have gotten Bell's palsy and their faces, or they've been so sick that they can't even leave their house from vertigo from like a Botox. I just want people to know that. So they're not
yeah,
continuing to do that without having any knowledge, especially like you can't go get breast implants continually, right? Like, well, you do, but it's like you're not going to go in
no,
every 3 months to get your boobs redone. I fucking hope not.
no,
Right? Like, so, but people should know like accumulative over time, and like you said, they're so young. So
yeah,
when someone comes in and they're like, oh, I'm getting my nose done, what's a little bit of filler and a little bit of Botox. But what you're not understanding is that you're also kind of validating your inner insecurities. And then now you've
Yes.
potentially started an addiction to something that you never had, that these surgeons are
Yes.
just putting in front of you to being like, let's save you some money and seem like they're doing something nice for you. And I'm like, bro, if my fucking doctor told me like, oh, just do a little bit of this to get your lips better, your face, I'd be like, I'd want to punch him in the face. Like, I understand you're here to make me
Yep.
look better, but you're straight up telling me that what you're selling me is going to make me look better and I'm not good enough. I don't
Yeah.
fucking know. Like, that seems some like massive gaslighting and marketing there. I don't know. It makes me sick to my stomach that there are women that are like, yeah, you're right. I am not good enough and I
Oh,
have to do this. And it,
the majority of women are going through that. And I mean, even if they don't go ahead with it, I promise you that they'll struggle with it, just like that comment that you had when you were younger about not being feminine with a flatter chest, right? It's like it sticks with you. I mean, women are impressionable, especially at a young age, and especially in this society, you know?
and people just want to look like before. I think when we were growing up we kind of knew like, there was some, I think we were the first generation that was attacked with like Photoshop kind of stuff where photos were extra done, Playboy,
Yes,
all that. But now the
yes,
next generation has people on their phones, everyday people with the ability to do that. And if you surround yourself with people that aren't showing up honestly, you might think that everybody looks like that if you're just chronically online. And then now these girls are
yes,
going in and being like, I want to look like this filter at the ages of 20. It's like, girlies, let's grow into our faces a little bit. Like when I grew up, like
yes,
people that did this were like 50s, 60s. And now there's
yes,
girls that are younger than me that I've never had Botox fillers. They have 10 times more than I'll never do it. So, and I'm like terrified of like, what is that doing to your psyche, to your physical body?
yes.
What's it going to look like?
Oh,
Think
yeah.
about all the women now that have fucking infertility because of birth control and all that kind of
Oh,
shit.
so many,
What is
so many.
that going to look like? And should we be selling to women that they need this at a young age for preventative? Like,
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other
I
episode, and
know,
I will be
I
on
know.
that one
Okay,
as well.
perfect. That's the next one for
Because,
me because, like, how the fuck, like, and I feel like the
yeah,
fitness industry is a huge place that is that because your package and your body that you're selling is your brand, right? And I think that's why I
yes.
love women like you that are just so honest. So please don't change.
I will not change, I promise
Oh,
you.
thank you.
But I mean, I do understand, right? Like,
Totally.
because, like I said, national athlete, published for fitness. I'm also a published lingerie and boudoir model previously, right? And so working out 6 times a week, 2 to 3 hours a day, all of your food documented, no cheat meals, extensions, not saying they're bad because I have an
No,
extension company, but
yes, yeah.
extensions, makeup, filler, Botox, lashes,
Tans.
hormonal, yeah, tans, hormonal changes based on whatever, if you're taking PEDs,
Mhm.
all of those things. And still at the end of it, feeling like I needed to go do that. So we're talking about the top 2 percentile of fitness in all of Canada
Mhm.
and still having that pressure on you that you're not perfect enough. You're still being so edited in magazines that you don't look like yourself,
Mhm.
and obviously the magazines I've worked with are incredible magazines, but there were a couple times where I had to write and say, that doesn't even look like me. If you could please change that back, you know what I mean?
Oh my
So,
gosh, yes.
um, yeah.
That's and the reason I'm
As-
so glad that you brought that up too. Like that side note to that, I've always had photography. Like I had my business in Grand Prairie, don't do it anymore. But one of the big reasons
yeah,
why I stopped doing it is because people didn't want natural photography anymore. They want the extra
yeah,
Photoshop stuff, and I was just like, I don't feel like my natural branding will survive. No
yep,
offense, Clona, I love ya,
yes,
but it's there is a majority of the people here that are influencers that have to show up on social media in a certain
yes,
way, whereas like Grand
yes,
Prairie it was like everyone working, so it was families and it was just a different kind of vibe, right? And
different vibe.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
and as myself too, like I've had photos done before where I've got them back and I was like, I stopped for a minute because I was like, this is what people think is beautiful, like this doesn't look like me at all. And I really struggled of
yeah,
being like, okay, does my normal self not look good? Like, and then again, and I'm like, no, 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 get the fuck out of here. And so like I always try to also myself challenge myself to be like, let's show up real in the morning. I am not even baked yet. That's my natural opinion. This is my natural face, like this is because and not that I have, I've lost so many fucking accounts to being hacked over the last year, but not that I have many
yes,
people on, but I know certain people will be like, thanks for just being real, because we're so inundated with Photoshop filtered photos that these 20-year
yeah,
olds are thinking they need to get Botox at 20 to prevent their, or Sephora kids. that are getting fucking like
Mm-mm.
3-step like wash at 5? Like, what are we doing, you
Yes,
guys? What are we doing? Let's please
I know.
let's stop.
I know. The other day in the shop, actually, it's funny you bring that up, but all the hair girls were talking at the same time about this, and I said, we don't have that awkward phase
No,
anymore. Like there's none.
there's
Like
not.
you will not find photos of me anywhere unless you go visit my grandma and look at my album of me between the age of 11 and 14.
Thank
There's
God.
none.
Thank God.
Yeah,
Thank
goodbye.
Jesus.
Like, I was talking about like blue eyeshadow,
White
frosted pink
eyeliner,
lipstick. Oh yeah, and like
glitter
braces,
everywhere.
full braces,
Color.
like acne. And if you didn't do well with Proactive, which was the only thing out there,
Oh,
you were done.
my skin hurts just saying that name. My face feels dry when you just say that, like, and the foundation, like, there was no foundation that matched
Oh,
anybody at
the
that age. The
line.
line, and you didn't wanna wear white because you're, like, afraid it would rub off on that, like, those, like,
Oh
vests,
yeah.
those white vests or
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, oh my gosh,
Oh,
like
and the worst was I had sperm eyebrows. They looked like sperm. It was like it was like a little round
yes,
thing and then
and
just
then
a
it chased it.
line.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that is so funny, and it's true. I
You
was
know?
like, you have to be careful with trends sometimes, y'all. We lived through the '90s eyebrows, so I think a lot of us, like, some people suited, but for myself, I was like, I won't look good with microblading, and I lived through the '90s trend where everyone did the opposite. So I'm just gonna keep with my medium brow and
Just
just beast with this trend and just leave my
stick with
fucking brows alone. Like, stick with your
it.
natural
Yeah.
brows, friends. Like,
Yes.
because, but like,
Yes,
and
actually.
I think that's true. What it is do is you have to just be careful. I think my biggest thing, not that I have any plastic surgery, so I don't know why I'm giving any advice, but I'm just saying, like, I think if you really have to do it, like, really make sure it's aligned to what you want and what not
Yes.
society is telling you to do, right? Like, so
Yes.
many girls told me that they thought that their confidence would come once they got their breasts. And if anything, like I said, they were a little bit more reserved because they're like, holy fuck, now
Hmm.
I'm getting attention that I don't maybe necessarily
Yes.
want now.
Oh,
I just
yes.
wanted to feel
Yes.
feminine. And then like there's the oh well then you've got plastic and you got those kind of people that are and it's just like
Yes.
what the fuck? And so it's just I just want women
Yes.
to really like if you're gonna do it, like do your research on who and get a good one like Bella that will
Yes.
talk to you after. But what else would you say if someone is like hell bent, they had their research, they want implants? What are some tips that you would give them to make sure that, they're in the right headspace and physical space?
Anyone that's dealt with like extreme body dysmorphia issues, self-love issues, I would challenge them to take 6 to 12 months to just really work on that first. It is a huge medical procedure, and I know that we minimize it because so many people have it. But you're literally cutting open an entire part of your body and then sticking, like I said, objects that are foreign into it, and then just hoping that it heals. And it's simply to make a part of your body look slightly larger. So just, really take the time to think about the fact that you're gonna have to have these your whole life, whether or not you have an issue, it's gonna be $10,000 to $20,000 every 10 years. If you don't do that and do that replacement, you're gonna be looking at an explant anyways, or even BIACL, which is a type of cancer, obviously, that we didn't even touch base
No,
on.
we
It's
can
very
too.
aggressive.
Yep. Yeah. If you
Yeah,
want to.
very aggressive and kills a lot of women. It's a type of cancer that develops in the fluid sac that develops naturally around the implant in your chest wall. So those types of things, I would really, really, advocate for people to do the homework, find a surgeon that really cares about you, that is going to sit down and talk with you about these things, look at other options like fat transfers, um, you know, but the biggest thing for me is self-love. Like I said, I didn't even realize that I didn't have love for myself in that area until after I got breast implants, not because I was insecure at all, but because of competitive bodybuilding. I actually liked my naturally small boobs prior. And then getting those and having to learn how to now love the scars that I have. So recently I got my nipples pierced with
Nice.
sparkly piercings, and I also got tattoos, mandalas all the way up underneath, just to celebrate the fact that I am a warrior, what I had overcome, and that I am beautiful as I am, with all of that. And the other big thing is to have solid women around you. Have women that are going to have the hard talks with you. They're going to play devil's advocate. They're going to ask you the why. And if you have women like that around you, I promise you, you'll probably be okay. So,
true. Just know when we say it with love, okay? Just
Yes,
kidding.
a hundred percent with love. Yes.
It's never like, yeah, I have jealous stuff. Of course I do. Yes, I have my wounded sister wounds for sure. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say
Yes.
that I don't have my shit, but it is,
You're human.
I know,
Oh my
right? It's
God.
so atrocious. But at the same time, I'm always like, just because you have those thoughts and those feelings doesn't make you a bad person. It's how you act on them. Right. And so
Yes.
instead of me sitting here being like, obviously I would love to have big boobies, but what I see is women that are suffering, that feel like they have to put themselves in a risky position that maybe they wouldn't have if they knew things like this can happen too, right? And like we
Yes.
said, we didn't even, like you said, talk about the cancer part of it. We actually had a girlie on the show that absolutely got cancer from her breast implants, got her
Yes.
boobs
Yeah.
removed and got that all removed, and then they're like, well, do you want to add some more? And she's like,
Yeah.
what? What? I just got those out. And we've also had Dr. John Konevsky from the States, who also does the fat transfer, and he does surgery by
Yes.
ceremony, right? Where it's like
Yes.
you're actually not even put under anesthetic, you're put under ketamine and just brought so low,
Mm.
and it's a spiritual thing, and you're a part of the whole thing. So you, because it is a major surgery. I'm so glad that you brought
Yes.
that up, because people don't think about it. They think, oh well, so many women have got their breast implants done. Cool. It's still a fucking
Yes.
huge
Yeah.
surgery. You still like
It is.
you can't do certain, sometimes some women can't even do chest exercises after because it's so tight, like just forever. Like it can
Oh yeah.
change your life when it comes to, I don't think 20-year-olds are thinking when I'm having a baby, and I'm not saying people can't breastfeed, I'm just saying it could pose more issues for yourself than you're thinking down the road, because you're in your early 20s or your early 30s and you're not thinking. But then maybe you meet the guy, and then you want to have kids, and now all of a sudden now you don't, I'm not saying that you have to, but you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe you're getting
Yes.
some things taken away. Like, maybe you're not gonna be able to breastfeed because of that. And maybe that's something that you would have wanted had you known that that could be something that happens. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes. Oh yes,
uh,
100%. And those are the things that we don't, yeah, that's what I kind of what I was saying. We're impressionable at that age. We think we're invincible.
Mhm.
I felt the same way, and I was very health conscious and I still totally went ahead with that surgery. And yes, it's elective. I understand that. But what a lot of people don't know is that when you get sick like that, you hit this point where you really realize that there is so much more to you than your body, and that your health is really all you have in order for your soul to keep going,
Yes.
right?
Good.
And there was this point on the operating table where I looked up at the lights and I thought, this might be it for me, because my survival rate was low, and I just kind of accepted that what was going to happen was going to happen. But when I woke up, that's when I realized, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that women know that they are so much more than their bodies. And yes, I have devoted years of my life, more than half of my life, to looking a certain way and being an athlete that's so focused on image.
Mhm.
And so, if I can tell you anything, being that type of woman, it's that there is so much more to you than that. There is so much more light in you than that. And if you can embrace that, if you can learn to love that, none of this stuff will matter anyways.
Mm-mm. No.
Yeah.
And your light will just shine, right? And we'll realize
Yeah.
there's so much more. Like, when you're helping people and you're, doing your thing that you do, that we love so much. When people
Hmm.
message you, are they like, "Oh my gosh, this resonated because of the way your boobs looked"? No. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, maybe, I'm sure there's some of those DMs. Okay, I'm not gonna say we all don't have those fucking DMs. But I'm just saying, like, the ones that you care about, the people that you want to impact in your life, they don't give a shit about your breast size. They don't give a shit about your wrinkles. They don't care if one eye is bigger than the other. They don't care if you have buck teeth or if your hair is thinning or whatever. These things are tools to
Hmm.
help you, make you feel better, and that's what they should be.
Yes.
They shouldn't make you feel like that's your only value. And I think until, like
Yes.
you said, until you're stripped of everything, or like
Yes.
a lot of women suffered through COVID where they couldn't get all those things done and they had to look at their natural selves through the mirror. Those are big
Yes.
moments where you have to look and say, hey, is the risk versus the reward, right? And keep doing those
Hmm.
things as long as you know those risks. So when they do come up, you can stop them, or and like you said, I don't think all these things necessarily are the devil, but I think if we put a lot of strain on our body, like you said, in competition, all of those things,
Yeah.
whether a lot of it's healthy, there's going to be extra chemicals that you're consuming, extra things that
Oh,
you're doing, right?
definitely.
Like, outside of like gear and all that, just even like extra everything. That's gonna have to put
Hmm.
something on your body. And then on top of it, you guys are very pushed to have a certain way. So it's no wonder why many women, I feel like, in the fitness industry are explanting their boobs, because it wasn't necessarily for anything other than to have the perfect package. And so they're like, hey, I don't want to die. This isn't worth that.
Yes,
I'll take them out.
it's
But
not.
it's really not. But at the same time, there's
It's
just
not.
everyday women that just feel like they're less than because of it. And so I think it's important for women like us to keep being like, hey, it's okay. Join our itty bitty titty committee. It's all right. We're still
Yes,
amazing people. We can still change the world. We're still beautiful.
yes.
But
Oh, yes.
if you do feel like doing it, do all the research. Make sure you know, and make sure you have some, at least half of an explant saved. So if you are in a Bella situation, she had angels watching her, right? You have angels watching
Yes,
over you, because I'm not saying anybody that has passed doesn't have a purpose, but like, you definitely have a voice and you're using it, thank goodness. But there are women out here that can't. And so women like us, I
yes,
feel like we need to share, okay, it's okay to be flat chested for the young girlies, which I see a lot of young girlies these
yes,
days embrace their flat chest, which I'll say,
yes.
next gen, very proud of you. um
Same.
but there's a lot of people that are suffering with their implants and need to explant. So let's shift over to advice for if you got boobies, you want to explant, you've got the money, you're going. What are some things that a woman could do to prepare herself for that process?
The biggest thing for me is support, support, support. Getting on that group that I was talking about, reaching out to other people that have shared about their stories. Even if you go on Instagram and you actually search, hashtag explant, you can get in touch with a lot of people that way. Um, Talking to a therapist,
Mm.
making sure that you're working through some of the things that got you to that point in the first place, or some of the thought processes that you're going to deal with later, making sure that your spouse is aware of how hard this is going to be on you, and that your support team is really ready to lift you up when you go through it. I reached out to all of my friends and let them know what was going on, and just made plans with them to get me out of the house and to get me walking. Your body is going to be absolutely exhausted from the surgery. It's a really big surgery getting them in. It's an even bigger surgery getting them out, especially if you're dealing with chronic illnesses or things like that, like what I was dealing with. So my biggest piece of advice would be, like I said, support, and then also making sure that you have immuno support and physical supports for your body when you're coming out of it, detox programs, a doctor that's going to work with you, or a coach that's going to work with you that can, give you nutrition tips, and things that are going to help heal your body more rapidly, tons of water. Glutathione is another thing that I took just to help me, detox. Mushroom blends. There's all sorts of things. If anyone needs anything, let me know. I've been through it. I will send you the link.
And that is such a beautiful thing about over the last 5 years, is that there has been, again, more people speaking out about it, sharing their
Yes,
experiences, because obviously mainstream media isn't going to report on this. We'll hear the 3 to 4 minutes, but then it's like on to the next fear mongering thing. It's not, I feel like on the news, it's not necessarily to help with like awareness. It's almost just like the fear and like to keep people hyper all the time. Although it should be talked
yes,
about, right? It's like, okay, great, we had that 3 or 4 minutes, but like, okay, what happened a little bit more? Let's dive deeper into this stuff so that other women know these symptoms. What could they be looking for? Where do they need to go? And a lot of people, like,
yes,
there's not a lot, there's people in Canada, but Canada is very behind on the times. I feel like the States definitely
very.
has some more advanced. And some of my girlfriends had to go to like fucking, I think it was Costa Rica or Cuba. I can't remember which one, but she had to literally go to another country because she got hers explanted, I think 2018, so just the year before you, and nobody in Canada
Hmm.
would take her seriously. They're all like, "You're fucking crazy," and she was like,
Well, and it's still like that,
"Yeah,
unfortunately. So a lot of explant doctors will only explant work that they have done. I think there are only 3 or 4 in the entire country right now, and the wait lists on them are 1 to 5 years, for you to get in with work that was done by a doctor elsewhere. So most international work, they will just immediately tell you no. I went to one of the top doctors in Canada, like he's literally on the Canadian Medical Board, and even with him, it was difficult to get an explant.
oh my god,"
So
and so she's like,
that's the other thing, is you're looking at travel costs as
"Yeah."
well. Can you even get down there? Will that doctor even answer you back? I had a girlfriend that obviously everything was through WhatsApp.
Mhm.
The moment the doctor heard that she was sick and that it was documented, blocked her on everything and wouldn't help her. And then no doctor here would help her. So I think it's actually a lot more complicated than people even realize.
Mhm.
The stuff that they're going to have to navigate and the red tape that's really there.
Yep.
That's the part that's killing women, is the fact that, yeah, maybe they know they have breast implant illness, but trying to get the support and the help. I mean, I was really blessed and really lucky to have had a physician that really listened to my voice and what I had to say. And he's not even a full supporter of breast implant illness. You know, he just believed me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, having more women advocate like we are for the voices that feel that they can't be heard so that we can get rules and regulations, insurance policies, and coverage in place for women to get the support they need when this stuff happens. That's really where I'm going to be shifting my focus personally. So,
I love that. Cool. Well, we'll definitely have to like brainstorm together. Is like, what can we do to help? It's like, okay, we've got this. We've got our advocacy. We're sharing. People are finding out. What's next step? Like, let's look at
yeah,
where could we have it so it's like they don't hear a podcast, they don't hear YouTube. They're going into the surgeons. That's where things need to change. It's the media, and I get
yes,
that. I get it's money, but at the same
hmm,
time, like y'all make enough. So how about we look into like ethically making money? So not saying that you need to stop. I'm not saying this industry needs to shut down. There everyone can have whatever they want. Everyone's experience here and their lessons is for them to learn, not for me. That being said, like you still need to have a little bit of accountability. There needs to be when it comes to informed consent, to me there's personal accountability where you do need to look into things yourself and not trust that everyone is going to tell you stuff. Unfortunately, I think through the pandemic and being Canadian, I think we learned that if we haven't
100%.
already, right? It's just so don't take anything at
Yes,
face value. Jump a little bit deeper into things because the person making money off of you is probably going to give you their version of the story through their lens, but
of
you
course.
should definitely be listening to dissenting opinions and survivors of whatever you're trying to get into so that you fully know. And I feel like at this point in time, and I'm not victim blaming at all, there's so much out there now that I really feel like people should feel empowered to go. It's not like when
Yes,
you were before. It's like we know someone that has had breast implant illness. I would say everybody
yes,
across the board has heard this by now. If you're
yes, 100%.
ignoring that, dive a little bit deeper. If you're going to be like, that's not it, like just please, or at least understand that other people have this experience and don't diminish theirs, even if you don't believe that it's real. Just be like, oh, okay, that person had it, even though I think I'm okay, whatever. But stop diminishing survivors. I think that's the thing that upsets me the most in these conversations. I'm not even one. I just stand up for you guys and I'm like, shut the fuck up. uh, this is what I do on my as my hobby is I talk to women. And even if they're not on my show, they're in my DMs because they're too afraid to talk about it. Do you know how hard it has been, and not that I'm trying to find someone that has had a bad plastic surgery? Because majority of them, especially rhinoplasty, have to sign NDAs and they cannot speak or they'll get sued.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That's
100%.
sad.
But I think that's even more powerful, though, the fact that you weren't directly, um, you weren't a victim of this necessarily physically. You weren't directly affected by getting breast implants, but you, for a hobby, have decided to use your voice to advocate for all of these people. You believed all of these voices, not even going through it yourself. So to me, that's why you matter so much to me. You're one of the first people that listened to what I had to say. Like you made me feel validated and heard in a time when all I had heard was that my voice didn't matter. Um, so that means so much to me. I just honestly thank you for having the courage to stand up against some very big voices in order to advocate for something, like I said, that you haven't even really been through. Like that takes some courage. You got some balls.
I know sometimes that's why I kind of wish I was a mom because I feel like you get this mama bear, like, don't fuck with me kind of thing. But I've always
Yeah.
felt like I've always been that sassy friend, loudmouth friend that has always just like
Yes.
said the intrusive thought or, was just like,
Yes.
you sure about that? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not saying I'm perfect, but I've always been like very vocal. And I just thought, how can the way I did things, okay, this is how I operate. So most people don't know I'm a stoner when they first meet me. And it's not that I'm afraid to say anything, but I'm always like, oh, I'm going to make them because back then, like 10, 15 years ago, it was very much demonized. No one wanted to talk about it, especially at like your job. You know,
Yes.
dial ahead, my corporate career is in cannabis, but whatever. Anyways, so what I would do is I'd make people like get to know who I am and the hyper person that I am. And I broke every stereotype of a stoner. I was teaching classes at 6 a.m. I'm super hyper. I'm not like at home being lazy, like not, I'm very the opposite. And then they get to know me. And then I'd be like, oh, you know that I'm like a huge stoner, right? Like when you're talking to me, chances are I'm high. And people will be like, what? Like,
You
what?
said that out
What?
loud.
You
Yeah.
are? Or they would actually be like, oh, okay, well, maybe stoners aren't that bad of people. And then they'd be like, and it would like fuck with their heads of what they normally know. So when I came to the
Yes.
podcast, it was like, I want to share experiences because people can't really argue experiences. And then I ran out of talking about my own. And I was like, okay, now that I feel comfortable doing that, now that people have gotten to know where my heart is and know that I'm not coming from I'm not drinking haterade here when I'm saying be careful about your
Mm-hmm.
boobies. I'm saying I do a lot of research, I fall down a lot of rabbit holes, and a lot of women are hurt here. And I just don't want other women to be gaslit and to think, A, that they need to do this to be beautiful. And if you still need to do
Yes.
it, that's okay. That's your life. That's your journey. Get it done.
Yes.
But oh,
Yep.
I'm using my iPhone and it's putting up all these balloons on these like anyways, so I just want them to know and to have the money and to be prepared. Like you said, you think the implant is bad, the explant, and I'm not trying to fear anyone. I'm just trying to
Way
be
worse.
real, right? Like these are things you have to take in consideration the minute you implant. That is not something that you just think about after. You need to, in my opinion, that needs to be a part of your decision going forward, and make sure, like you said,
Oh, yes.
you have a support group that is going to be there for you, because in our medical world right now, especially in Canada, if you don't have an advocate, I don't even know what to say. Like, you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
You're going to have a hard
Oh, definitely. And even with advocacy, even being someone who has the, the education, the medical documents, all of the test results that you have, you're still shut down.
time.
So,
And it's just, you just
hmm
have to know. And like, thank you for being the little spitfire that you are, because honestly, like, you're just like me too, where you're just like, injustice? I don't think so. I don't care who's going to be
uh,
upset. I'm going to share it.
100%. I literally just say how I feel because, like I lived it,
hmm
and I'm the same as you. Like I'm starting to slowly come out of my shell and start to fight for things that just matter to me that I haven't even been through as well. So I think we just need to stick together, honestly,
Totally.
and until some changes are made, I know I personally won't stop speaking up about it. This is something that's very serious, and people have to start being held accountable for it.
Yeah. And once you do it once, like anybody that is thinking about wanting to talk out, for one, reach out to myself or Bella. And anybody could be on my show, but if you want to talk like experience, obviously reach out to Bella.
Hmm
But I think the minute you do it for that one subject, like you said, and you get over the hate and the cancellation, you just don't care anymore, because what you get
Yes.
and the ripple effect of the people that you help is so much more than any hater person that is projecting because you've mirrored something they're uncomfortable with, right? It's not really a me
Yeah.
problem, it's a you problem. Whoever's upset, I mean that in the nicest way, as long as I'm being respectful and kind with what I'm saying and my opinions, you get upset about it, that's a personal thing to you, right? That's kind of how
hmm
I feel. And the way I see it is like, y'all, I talked about the vaccine and COVID during the pandemic. I ain't afraid of nothing anymore. Like,
Nope.
after that,
Absolutely not.
I was like, I am fucking, what are we going to talk about next? Like, let's bring abortion to the table. Let's bring safe supply to the
Let's just
table.
bring it
Let's
all.
just bring it all. And what needs to happen is that the conversations need to be had. We don't all need to agree. They just need to be had so that there's
Exactly.
less nuance, less argument, less gaslighting, less being like, well, I don't
Yeah.
know anybody that got their boobs out. Cool. I know 10 that I can name off of my hand in Canada, like just off the top of my head.
Well,
Like,
exactly. Well, and that's the thing too that I really feel so strongly about is anything that is not an educated decision is not a decision.
it's not informed.
A decision is made with critical thinking and with all of the facts, and I think just in general as a society that we're struggling with that right now. And I think that's what we need to do is just, it's not about controlling anyone. It's about putting it out there and people making a decision on their own through their own thought processes. And I mean, that goes right back to COVID. And when we talked to the small business owner, navigating that, like just in general, that should be the practice,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know?
And leading into kind of my final. So, do you feel like you're recovered from BII? Do you feel like most of it is past? Is there some things that still kind of linger a little bit, or do you feel like you're past that point?
The only thing that I've noticed is I do get a little bit of vertigo and light sensitivity with my headaches more so than normal. I've always had headaches. I live in like the migraine capital of Canada in Calgary, right?
Oh,
So
yes.
it is what it is. But I think that actually might be a little bit of PTSD. The day that I almost passed away during my breast implant illness, and there was a 10-minute window where I wasn't breathing, and the ambulance was called, and it was really scary. I passed out during that time. I just remember like seeing the sunlight kind of, I fell backwards. I didn't feel hitting the ground at all. I felt weightless. And I saw the sun and I thought, wow, I didn't think that I was going to die this way. And I think that moment has just stuck with me. And there are moments when the sun just hits me at the same angle, and I'll just remember what I went through and the 9 times that I went into that emergency room where they wouldn't listen to me, you know, peeing my own pants, biting through my number 2 molar and crushing it in half. That's how much pain I was in. And them telling me that there was nothing wrong with me, you know? So the psychological effects of navigating that, literally fighting for your own life when you're dying against medical professionals, you know, has stuck with me. The actual healing, I'm 100%.
That's great.
And yeah, I am so beyond grateful for that because I don't have anything.
That's amazing.
I don't have anything.
And
Yeah.
too, and that's one thing I want to lead to is that at the beginning of this 5 years ago, I'm sure you felt like, what the fuck is my life going to be? Is anything going to, like, am I going to not make anything of myself, but like, is this my life forever? Is this what I'm going to be? Now, dial ahead
Yes.
5 years, you're now feeling, obviously, the PTSD, your body's going to take time to release that
Yes.
very scary thing. So, very fair. And I'm glad
Yes.
that I know you practice grace with yourself in that, but it's good to be honest that, you still have those feelings. But
Yes. Yeah.
now, let's lead into the final thing I want to chat. You're where you are now in your life. You've got so much going on for you. You're doing so much for everyone. Let's talk about where
Yes.
you are. Let's talk about your businesses and the fact that you're doing all of this right now after 5 years almost dying.
Yes, so I definitely did think that that was the end for me. I have a video of me during that time where I really said, this can't be it. I literally filmed myself saying, this can't be it. And I was trying to force myself to walk actually in the video, to now almost 5 years to the day of that. And I have 3 businesses, one with my lovely partner, Dennis. It's called Under Oath. It's a clothing company that we just took over. And it's all about building up that dream you had when you were little, the one that we all, held ourselves to, and that light that we shone so brightly for, and then forgot, because so much of who we are now is actually unlearning what society has taught us, and once again becoming that whole vulnerable, child filled with wonder. And so it's called Under Oath because it's about holding yourself accountable. You are under oath to achieving the things that you felt were important to you when you were younger, and choosing to shine. Don't. You're making me cry.
I try not
Yeah.
to. It's just my human
Yeah.
being. I'm just so happy. Just like, yeah, not that it has
Yeah.
anything to do with me by any sense, but like, it's just, I don't know. We've always been cheerleaders for each other, right? So it's just like,
Always.
right, and just to
Always.
watch you go through
Yeah.
all the things and every time, and then when I seen that, it was just like, didn't realize it was 5 years, but it was just like,
Yeah.
when you see your friends go from like, there was so much light into you to like, not that they were out, but like it was so damaged. It's just like, and you were fighting, and I could see that, and I could see you fighting. I remember the fucking video that you posted, and I had
Yes.
just become friends with you online. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I just met her. What is happening? But I truly feel like where we are now in our friendship and our connection and what we're doing, I was meant to meet you just before then so that I could witness
Yes.
this glow up and support the whole time and be there anyway. And like,
Yes.
I cannot wait.
Yes.
Next paycheck, I'm definitely, you guys, I'll sport it on the show for sure. I'll buy some gear for you for sure as well, because like I was thinking about it even when you were with them, and I was like, oh, now she owns it, oh, I gotta do that now.
Yeah.
And like, it's just, I just want people to understand that you can be on your deathbed to where Bella is now, where she's thriving, right? Like, and even just not even like the business aspect, like just what you're doing for the world and showing up and giving positive mindset changes and affirmations to
Thank you.
people, and just reminding them like, we all go through shit. I'm so tired of people like pretending they don't go through shit and just like their highlight reel. Like, cool, it's not 2012 anymore. Could we start being honest on social media? Like, we're done.
100%. Yeah. And my most liked post I've ever made, like more than winning nationals, more than anything, was the video I posted on It's Okay to Not Be Okay, and do not compare your behind the scenes to someone's highlight reel.
Absolutely.
and we are all living life. We're all just trying to navigate this fucked up world right now.
Yes.
And the only way we're going to be able to do that is if we're authentic, and we stick together.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I do my mindset coaching. I have my hair company, making women feel beautiful. But this under oath adventure, I'm calling it, that we're about to go on is going to be incredible. And I'm so about what you were saying, about, okay, yeah, you're working on making money, but you're doing this because you love it. If you decide that you're going to change 1 million people's lives, you will make $1 million. You
100%.
will, you know? So go into it with what drives you, what's your passion. You will be okay. If you go into it just wanting to make money and it's just about business, you're not going to have that soul connection with it, and you're not going to leave a legacy. And to me, that's really what life is all about, is leaving this world a better place when you're gone. So
Absolutely. And that's
thank you
so
for doing that.
yes, of course. And like it's you're so true. And I think we all have to have that bottom moment. We all have to be at our worst and we all have to go through and make mistakes and fail and go through stuff. And I
Yes,
think if we could just take shame away and replace it with grace,
yes,
that's why we're
yes,
fucking here. Again, I always say this, it goes back to what you believe in. I believe that we have a
yes,
soul contract and we're here to learn the lessons that our soul has pushed us to, the hard, the good, the bad. And I kind of look at it as like, what do I want to bring back to my higher self? Do I want to be proud of who I am and take these lessons with grace and understanding and patience? And can I
yes,
win when I win and really celebrate it? And then also realize that life is beautiful. And if we continue to look at that and practice all these mindset things like gratitude and manifestation and meditation and just being within ourselves, and like you said, deprogramming us of what we're
yes,
supposed to be to get back to who we are. I love that
yes,
that underbelly of the under oath there. That's really amazing to hear. That's
yeah,
perfect. It's like we are getting back to that childhood. And I think one of my favorite ones is
yes,
you dancing by yourself and just letting your emotions go through movement. And that is what we need to get back to, is not worrying about whatever else, is what doing it in the moment. And like obviously you got to plan a little bit, like don't spend your rent
yeah,
on going to Mexico. I'm not, we still have to be adults, but still having a piece of time where you stop and you check into the little girl. And I just want to say
yeah,
my biggest takeaway from every episode I have with individuals like yourself is just remember to tell that little girl inside that you are beautiful and you are enough and nobody else can tell
yes.
you different, right? Because my worry is the more and more we validate our insecurities, the more and more we're telling that little girl that she is not good enough. And that's where our wounds lie, is within our little selves, right? So
100%. And I think, honestly, just to add to that, the number one thing you can do in this life as a woman is to become the type of woman that would have protected you as a child. And that really hit me this year when I realized that I have truly, at this moment, become the type of woman that would have never allowed the things that happened to me, that would have never allowed that little girl to believe the lies that she believed.
mhm,
That was when I realized that I'd really hit, a point in my life that I could be proud of.
yes.
And if we can really aim to be that, to become those women, that would never allow that, then our lives are worth it.
Absolutely. And it just ripples, right? When you stand in your
Yeah.
authenticity, you stand in your own beauty and you show other girls like, yeah, this is how, let's how I was made by like God, by universe, by source. This is who I am and I'm okay with
Yeah.
that. It really does. When I see other girlies do that, I'm like, and in my down days, so like please continue to always do what you're doing. But if we want to follow you on social media, Bella, where can we follow you though? I want to make sure that we have all companies. Give me your ads.
So it's Weave Life Inc. is my hairline. Warrior Mindset Coach is my coaching line. The new adventure that I was telling you about, Under Oath, which you guys really need to check out, this clothing line. It is so connected and just authentic and beautiful. Honestly, the behind the scenes with it is underoath.ca. Okay, and you guys can obviously check us out and shop. It's all in our bio there. And then if you want to follow me personally, I'm always posting weird, nerdy things, so don't mind
We
me. I
love it.
am also smoking weed all the time.
Yes.
And that is Bella Taylor Parker.
I appreciate it. This has been so awesome. Bella, before we jump off today, though, we covered so much. And again, I think this will be the one of many more now that we've had this one after such a long break. But anything else that
Yes.
you want to share with any women that have either going to implant, explant, or do you think we covered it all today?
I think the biggest thing I want to leave behind is that there is hope. There is. You will feel better. You will get better if you don't have full healing. The fact that you'll be in a spot where you're surrounded by women that understand what you've been going through, it's still worth it. Just know that you're going to get through this. I promise you that you're going to get through this. And it doesn't feel like it right now. I remember sitting in bed thinking that this is the end. It's not. This is just the beginning. And I promise you that I will never stop fighting. And I know that you won't either, for you guys to be heard.
Agreed. And then when you're ready, we're here. And we'll talk to you about it. And we'll bring you on a show. And
Yes.
we'll amp you up. And we'll be
Yes.
in your DMs and on your comments being like, Yas Queen, get it. And whatever that looks like. This has been an amazing conversation. Not that I'm shocked that it was so like, oh, just love you so much, girl. Thank you for everything.
I love you too, girl.
Okay, guys, before we start crying, I'm going to say that's it for today. And until next time, guys, bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for the support. I cannot thank you enough for being here. If you like this episode and you want to hear more, please give me a follow at the Be Real Babe podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, and Pinterest. You can also find me on Facebook at the Be Real Collective. Until next time, guys, bye.